Another lie that the Democrats pushed on the American people is that the border is secure. Y'all, this lie, they've been running this lie for 3 years, even though we're looking at the caravans. We on the TV like, that look like a whole lot of people just coming through. And they keep telling us that this border is closed and it is secure. And I'm like, really? Really? Okay, so you gonna look us in the eye and tell us that the border is secure. Y'all, there's probably an illegal running across the border right now as I speak, scratching through the fence. Democrats lied about the border, and they kept lying about the border, and they kept telling us that the border was secure and that it was safe. Couldn't even get Scam Mala to go down to the border. Talk about, have you been to the border? She like, I haven't been to Europe. We like, what? We ask you if you went to the border. You talking about we know you ain't been to the border. She's like, well, I haven't been to Europe either. They kept telling us that the border was closed and secure when Jose was in your backyard camping out. Pablo just snatched your cell phone and then tried to sell it back to you. And if that wasn't just this bad, all of that crime, the fentanyl, all of the people's lives that have been lost, they lied about the border being closed and secured. We know why they did it, but here's what's really messed up. The Democrats demonstrated that resources could be distributed to illegals while our veterans and other groups of Americans, they had to sit back and suffer. These resources that you like, we ain't got it. All of a sudden, the floodgates, which they was just making it rain for the illegals. Y'all, not only that, the other issue that is so grimy, we lost track of over 300,000 minors. And this is going to lead into my next point. We lost track of over 300,000 minors, because y'all may not know this. I just learned this today.
I have come to the floor to talk about the Biden administration ending a policy that we had during the Trump years, and it was familial DNA testing at the southern border. Now, they chose to end this. Nobody has benefited more from this reckless decision of the Biden administration than these cartels that are abusing and recycling minors to help illegal aliens. Yes, indeed, they are recycling children. They're recycling children who have no relationship to the adults that are bringing them in, because these illegal aliens being pushed by the cartels are attaching children to the adults so that they appear as a family unit at the border, and that will help them to get asylum. While more than 400,000 migrant children have crossed our border under this administration, reports show us that as many as 30% of those children that are DNA tested by border agents are not related to the illegal aliens who are posing as their family members. So I come to the floor to call for a motion to proceed to S 1843, the End Child Trafficking Now Act, to restore familial DNA testing at the border. The bill would criminalize child recycling. It would require DHS to deport illegal aliens who refuse a DNA test. It would mandate a maximum 10-year sentence for illegals who fabricate family ties to a minor, and require HHS to process such children as unaccompanied minors. Protecting migrant children should not be controversial, but if my Democrat colleagues object, they are making their position clear on this issue. So, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to legislative session. Further, that the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of S. 1843 and the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration.
Is there objection?
Reserving the right to object.
I knew we lost track of them, but I didn't know that there was a bill introduced in the state of Tennessee that the Democrats voted against, which would have effectively required DNA tests for all the illegals that were coming in that had minor children with them. They're like, okay, those your kids. Okay, fine. We'll just 90 minutes tops. We'll do a DNA test so we can prove paternity, right? Maternity and paternity. These are your kids. Fine. The Democrats, you know they shot that bill down? It was shot down by them nasty behind Democrats. Because they nasty. And we're going to talk about why they nasty. But before we get into why they nasty, I'm not finished with some of the other lies that I wanted to articulate for y'all. This one hit home for me because it really reflected that they will abuse and exploit anybody. Democrats kept lying about the mental state of our president and his mental capacity, Joe Biden. They lied about that. Now, y'all know I don't particularly care for Joe as the commander in chief, but he was still our president. And I felt some sort of kind of way because Joe Biden didn't know where he was, what time it was, or whether he was even president or not. Joe has been in a cognitive decline for a very long time. I called it when he ran the first time against Donald Trump. And when people kept raising questions about his mental state, who did we have looking at us in the camera? Kamala. She told us that I'm around Joe every single day and that he is just as sharp as he has ever been. Oh, he's just quick as a whip. She told us that. And not just that, the media told us there ain't nothing wrong with Joe. They told us wasn't nothing wrong with Joe, that he was agile and he was quick and he's as sharp as he's ever been. Nancy Pelosi lied to us. Gavin Newsom lied to us. Even the chief Negro overlord himself, Jim Clyburn, lied and said there was nothing wrong with Joe Biden. You know, they had to bring him out to convince the black folks who got people that are cognitively impaired in their family. And we like, you know, when she had dementia and Alzheimer's, she was acting a little bit like Joe. And Jim Clyburn was like, Joe fine. Ain't nothing wrong with Joe. Massa is just fine. That's what Jim Clyburn said to us. Then, how many paid Democrat preachers did we listen to? How many did we have to listen to who they took to their pulpits to tell us that Joe was just fine and that all we saw was him struggling with a little speech impediment? That's what they told us. And I'm like, huh? Say what now? I'm like, do y'all remember how many of those videos we watched of all those black preachers after that first debate? They all came out. They were like, oh, heck, we got to come out and we got to protect master because I think the cat is out the bag and they know. We got to say something. The confidence of the American people eroded right before our very eyes because Democrats are a bunch of liars who refuse to tell the truth, even if it meant exploiting and abusing an old man. That's trifling. And then this is what happened. When they ran out of drugs or whatever they was giving Joe to kind of keep him on the up and up, when that real Joe Biden showed up at that first presidential debate, they couldn't hide Joe in the basement no more. They're like, oh, snap. What, Joe? They had did all that they could. They tried to say, oh, you know, he just got a little cold. You know, just a little cold. Then they was like, well, you know, he had been traveling extensively abroad and domestically. And so he is just a little fatigued, right? He's just a little tired. Then eventually, they just had to come out and admit that Joe had to go. Joe had to go because his mom was gone. And that, to me, that was a darn shame. Why? Because I would never vote for Joe Biden, ever. But for heaven's sake, they ain't have to do Joe like that. That was just foul. They pushed him aside because just like they don't give a darn about babies in the womb, they don't give a darn about cognitively old, impaired people either, including the president. They're like, oh, he's of no use to us now. Just put him away. They're just gonna put him away. How trifling was that? That one was personal for me because I am the primary caregiver of my mother who has dementia. And our family, it has not been easy, but I can't dare, Lord willing, as much of a struggle as it is, to just be like, well, just go and throw it in a home, right? Now, there might be some days where you just like, Lord, I don't know what else to do. You let them have their dignity and you give them their respect. You don't just do people like that, Democrats. But they threw Joe under the bus so bad, they had Jill out here wearing red on election day. She like, forget all y'all. She wore red and she probably would have wore a MAGA hat. She probably really wanted to wear a MAGA hat. And to be fair, I think both her and Joe voted for Donald Trump. Why? Joe was in rare pep spirit. He was happy the day after that election. He was just like, hey, did y'all notice his disposition the day after election day? He wasn't sad. He wasn't whining. He wasn't crying. He probably like, that's what y'all punks get. Y'all gonna do me like this? Now look at you. Out here, all y'all have lost. All of y'all. And he like, I don't feel no ways about it. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Standard of Truth podcast. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to check out the Standard Home and Living lifestyle store at standardhomeandliving.com. We've got everything from book studies, journals, and even podcast merch, so you can take a piece of this conversation with you wherever you go. And of course, be sure to follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok for more updates, behind the scenes, and daily insights. You can also stay connected at thestandardofTruthpodcast.com, where you'll find all the latest news and events, including live events coming to a town near you. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Until next time, keep standing firm in the truth. Grace and peace.